You swore an oath before you left, didn't you? She said, voice low and dangerous. That oath binds you. If you try to run or cheat me, you think the spirit will let you leave? You think your family will be safe? Ene trembled, tears spilling down her cheeks. She felt dizzy, the room spinning. Please, I can't do that kind of work, she begged, wrapping her arms around herself. I will do anything else, cleaning, hairdressing, please. Ene stared at the rusted ceiling fan as it turned lazily above her head. The air was thick and humid in the small room she shared with her younger siblings. It was a hot afternoon in Benin City, Edo State, and the electricity had gone out again. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but her mind was far from the heat. She was dreaming of another life, a life far away from the narrow streets and open gutters of her neighborhood. I go make her one day, she whispered to herself, using a common Nigerian phrase meaning, I will succeed one day. She had said it so many times, it had become a prayer. At 25 years old, Ene was the eldest of 3 children. She had finished secondary school and even learned hairdressing at a local salon. But jobs were scarce. Her mother, Mama Efe, sold smoked fish and yams in the market, barely earning enough to feed the family. Since her father passed away 3 years ago from a long illness, the weight of responsibility fell on Ene. She felt it every morning when she woke up to the sound of roasters and her mother's gentle singing of an old Benin folk song. Her siblings, Efe and Osaz, looked up to her for guidance and support. Big sister, we need new books for school, little Osaz would say, and Ene's heart would tighten knowing she had no money to give. Every evening, after helping her mother cook garri and soup, Ene would sit outside their compound on a wooden bench, fanning herself and watching the sun set in a haze of red dust. She often talked with her friend and neighbor, Ivie, about their dreams. If I get chance to go abroad, I no go think am twice, Ivie would say, eyes shining. If I had the chance to go abroad, I wouldn't even hesitate. They had heard stories of people from Benin City who traveled overseas and came back with wealth. There were rumors about big houses built by sons and daughters who went to Italy, Spain or France. In church, they had testimonies of helpers abroad sending money home. To girls like Ene and Ivie, the lure of a better life across the ocean was a siren song impossible to ignore. One sticky evening, as the generators hummed in the distance during another blackout, a woman visited their compound. She arrived in a shiny black car that kicked up dust as it pulled in. She was well dressed in a bright Ankara skirt and blouse, gold bangles jangling on her wrist. The woman introduced herself as Auntie Grace. She spoke kindly to Mama Efe, complimenting her on how smart and beautiful Ene was. Ene watched from the doorway, curiosity and hope blooming in her chest. Over a simple dinner of yam porridge that night, Auntie Grace cleared her throat and spoke softly but clearly. I have a business partner in Europe, she said. In France, he owns a boutique and is looking for assistants. I can help Ene get there, find her a good job. She can earn good money and help her family. Ene's heart pounded. The way Auntie Grace described it, a boutique in France, good salary, maybe even a chance to learn more skills. It sounded like the very opportunity she had prayed for. She glanced at her mother. Mama Efe looked hesitant. Worry lines creasing her forehead. Madam, I no get money for any big travel o, her mother said. We don't have money for any big travel. Auntie Grace waved her hand dismissively. Gold bangles clinking. No need. I will handle the expenses, she assured. We will arrange her passport, visa, ticket. It's an investment. She can pay back small small when she starts work. Don't worry, ma. Ene could hardly believe it. Someone was offering to pay her way. It sounded too generous. Yet, Auntie Grace spoke with such confidence and warmth that hope drowned out doubt. After Auntie Grace left, Ene and her mother stayed up late talking in the dark. The only light, a kerosene lantern throwing flickers on the wall. Mama, this might be my chance, Ene whispered, voice trembling with excitement and fear. If I go and work, I fit send money o. Osas and Efe can finish school. We can fix the leaking roof. You can rest, Mama. Her mother sighed deeply, reaching out to hold Ene's hand. My daughter, your happiness is my prayer, Mama Efe said softly in their Benin dialect. But I hear stories. People travel and suffer. I no wan make you suffer o. Tears glistened in the older woman's eyes. Ene squeezed her mother's hand. Mama, I will be careful. Auntie Grace said it's legitimate work. She tried to sound confident. In truth, a small voice in her mind whispered that things might not be so easy, but she pushed that aside. This was her shot. A week later, everything was arranged faster than Ene expected. Auntie Grace took her to get a passport in Lagos. Ene marveled at the efficiency. It seemed Auntie Grace had connections because the usual long lines and delays somehow vanished for them. They even visited a local shrine on the outskirts of Benin City before traveling, at Auntie Grace's insistence. There, in a dim room thick with incense, a native doctor made Ene swear an oath. She picked her thumb and swore never to reveal any details of the arrangement, to obey her benefactors in Europe, and to repay whatever expenses were incurred. Ene's voice shook as she repeated the words, feeling a strange dread. But Auntie Grace smiled and told her it was just a tradition to protect everyone's interest. The night before her departure, Ene sat outside once more with Evie. The moon was a thin crescent in the sky. Na so my life go change, Evie, Ene said, trying to convince herself as much as her friend. My life is about to change. By this time next year, maybe I go don build house for my mama. Evie gripped her hand. You get luck, Ene. I wish say na me. You are lucky, Ene. I wish it was me. But don't forget me when you reach there, oh, she added with a teasing smile. Ene laughed lightly, though her stomach fluttered at the mention of Europe. It felt unreal. I no go forget you, I promise. As Ene prepared for bed, she looked around their one-room home. Her mother and siblings were already asleep on the mat on the floor. She promised herself she would make this sacrifice worth it. She would work hard, earn money, and return home a hero who lifted her family from poverty. With a determined nod in the darkness, Ene closed her eyes and prayed silently. Dear God, bless my journey. Don't let anything happen to me. Let this be the answer to our prayers. In her heart, she believed she was on the brink of a new beginning. The day of Ene's departure came swiftly. At dawn, she hugged her mother tightly at the bus stop in Benin City. Tears streamed down Mama Efe's face as she pressed a small Bible into Ene's hands. God will protect you, my child, she said, voice quavering. Osaz and Efe clung to Ene's arms, not wanting to let go. Ene fought back her own tears and forced a smile. I will call as soon as I reach Europe, she promised, hoping her words sounded more confident than she felt. I go make all of una proud. With a final wave, She boarded the bus to Lagos with Auntie Grace by her side. The journey to Lagos and the flight out of Nigeria felt like a dream. Ene had never been on an airplane before. As the plane roared into the sky, she pressed her face to the window. The sprawling city of Lagos receded beneath her, a patchwork of tin roofs and highways disappearing under clouds. She felt a mix of excitement and anxiety twisting in her stomach. She clutched the little cross necklace Mama Efe gave her and silently prayed, "Let this journey be safe. Let my new life be good." After a long flight with a brief stopover, the plane landed in Paris. The air that greeted her outside Charles de Gaulle Airport was crisp and cold, so different from the humid heat of Nigeria. Ene shivered in her light jacket. She had dressed in her Sunday best, a neatly pressed blouse and skirt, wanting to make a good first impression on the boss at the boutique. Her instructions were clear. A contact would meet her at the airport holding a placard with her name. Through the crowd of strangers, speaking a language she didn't understand, Ene saw a tall man holding a sign that read Ene. He was dark-skinned, possibly African, with a thin build and weary eyes. She approached him, clutching her one duffel bag. "Hello, I am Ene," she said softly. The man gave a curt nod and attempted a smile. "Welcome, Abiyo." He replied in accented English, confirming he was indeed Ghanaian. "Come, let's go." Yo took her bag and led her to a car parked outside. As they drove out of the airport, Ene peered out at the foreign landscape, modern buildings, speeding cars, bright advertisements in French. Her heart fluttered with nervous excitement. "Excuse me, sir," she addressed Yo timidly. "Are we going to the boutique now?" Yo glanced at her in the rearview mirror. His eyes flickered with something she couldn't read. "Soon," he said simply. They drove for over an hour. The city side of Paris eventually gave way to quieter suburbs and then an older industrial area. Dusk was falling when Yo finally pulled up to a nondescript three-story apartment building with grey walls. The area seemed deserted and quiet, far from the bustling city center Ene had imagined. Yo helped her out and guided her inside. They climbed narrow stairs to the second floor. Ene's heart began to pound again, but this time with unease. "Where are we?" she asked, her voice small in the dim corridor. Before Yo could answer, a door at the end of the hallway opened. A woman stood there by a harsh white light from inside. "So, this is the new girl?" the woman asked in a sharp tone. She stepped forward, revealing a plump figure, dark skin, and a hard expression. She looked to be in her 40s. She wore a tight dress and high heels, her hair a sleek wig. There was a heavy scent of perfume mixed with cigarette smoke around her. Yo nodded. "Yes, madam." Ene blinked. "Madam?" The word sent a prickle of dread through her. The woman eyed Ene up and down, then gave a tight-lipped smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Come in," she said. Inside, the apartment was small and furnished. The living room light cast a yellow glow on peeling wallpaper. On a couch sat two other young women around Ene's age, both Nigerians by the look of them. They gave Ene sympathetic, almost pitying looks as she entered. "Welcome to France, Ene," the older woman said. "My name is Madame Florence. You can call me Auntie Flo." Her tone was overly sweet, and it made Ene's skin crawl slightly. Still clutching her bag, Ene mustered a polite smile. "Good evening, ma," she greeted, as taught to respect elders. "Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I am ready to start work at the boutique." She tried to keep her voice steady, despite the growing uncertainty gnawing at her. At the mention of a boutique, one of the girls on the couch looked down, covering her face, while the other sucked her teeth in apparent frustration. Madame Floris's smile vanished. She narrowed her eyes at Yo. Boutique? What boutique? She asked with a cold edge. Yo shifted uncomfortably. That's what she was told in Nigeria, he explained quietly. Madame Florence rolled her eyes and let out a short bitter laugh. Ah, I see. They sweet-mouthed you to get you here. She stepped closer to Ene, her perfume overwhelming. Listen well, girl. There is no boutique. The job you came for is different. The room felt like it was closing in. Ene's mouth went dry. I don't understand, she stammered. Auntie Grace said, forget whatever lies they told you, girl. Madame Florence snapped, her voice hard. You are here to work for me. The real work is what I say it is. She paused, letting the words sink in. You owe me for the expenses to bring you here. Your visa, your ticket, everything. That's 50,000 euros, and you must pay back. Ene's eyes widened, as if she had been slapped. 50,000? She echoed in disbelief. That astronomical sum swelled in her head. She had never even seen 50,000 naira in one place back home, let alone euros. Yes, Madame Florence said, her smile now thin and cruel. 50,000 euro. You will pay me every cent. And the only job you would be doing is sex work. The words hit Ene like a physical blow. She staggered back a step, shaking her head violently. No, ma. There must be a mistake, she cried, panic rising in her throat. I came to work in a shop. I can't. Her voice broke. Madame Florence's expression turned stony. She jerked her chin at Yo. Yo, show her. Before Ene could react, Yo gently took her arm and turned her around. In one swift motion, he unzipped the back of her dress. Ene gasped and struggled, but he held her shoulders firmly, exposing part of her back. Over her shoulder, Ene saw Madame Florence reach into a drawer and pull out a small handheld mirror. She pressed it against Ene's back. Look, Madame Florence ordered. Twisting her neck, Ene saw her own reflection in the mirror and froze. There, hidden under her clothing, there are several fresh scars on her back and shoulder. Thin, deliberate cuts, now healed into dark lines. She recognized them with horror. They were marks from the juju oath ceremony she had undergone. The native doctor had inscribed them when she made her sworn loyalty. Her stomach dropped. They are from the oath, she whispered, fear flooding her. She remembered the stern face of the native doctor, the threat of death if she disobeyed. Madame Florence lowered the mirror. You swore an oath before you left, didn't you? She said, voice low and dangerous. That oath binds you. If you try to run or cheat me, you think the spirit will let you leave? You think your family will be safe? Ene trembled, tears spilling down her cheeks. She felt dizzy, the room spinning. Please, I can't do that kind of work, she begged, wrapping her arms around herself. I will do anything else, cleaning, hairdressing, please. Madame Florence's face hardened like stone. This is not a negotiation, she said sharply. You belong to me now, until your debt is paid. You will sleep with men. That is how you pay. She nodded at the other two girls. They all went through the same thing. Ask them. One of the girls, a slim dark-skinned girl with tired eyes, spoke up softly. Sister, just do as she says. It's hard, but if you don't... She trailed off, but her eyes conveyed the warning. Madame Florence stepped forward and slapped Ene across the face. The crack of palm against cheek echoed in the small room. "No more nonsense," she hissed. "Cry all you want tonight. But from tomorrow, you will walk. Yo, take her bag. She won't need anything she brought." Ene clutched her duffel reflexively. It had her clothes, a few naira notes, her Bible, and the phone her mother had saved up to buy her for the trip. "Please, ma, at least let me keep my phone," she pleaded. I promised my family I will call." "Phone?" Madame Florence nodded. "To call who? So you can report us or beg your family for money?" She yanked the bag from Ene's hands with surprising strength and tossed it to Yo. "Take it. Search it later." Yo looked at Ene apologetically but followed orders, leaving the room with the bag. Ene's heart sank as she watched her last connection to home vanish behind the door with him. "You will stay here with the other girls," Madame Florence said, adjusting her dress calmly as if nothing happened. "They will teach you the rules. If you behave, you will eat and maybe even earn small allowance. If you try anything foolish, police, running, or you refuse clients, remember that oath. If that doesn't scare you, I have other ways to deal with disobedience." With that final threat, she turned on her heel and left the room, her high heels clinking on the tile floor down the hall. As the door slammed shut, Ene felt her legs give way. She sank to the floor, sobbing. Her mind was a whirlwind. "This can't be real. God, what do I do? Mama, oh God, help me." The two other girls knelt beside her, wrapping their arms around her trembling form. One stroked her hair gently. "I know, sister, I know," the girl murmured. "My name is Favor. I'm from Delta. This is Aisha. Just cry for now. It's always like this the first day." Through her tears, Ene choked out. How can I live like this?" Aisha, the quieter girl, whispered, "We survive. You have to. Think of your family. Once you pay, you can be free." Her voice wavered. It sounded more like she was trying to convince herself than Ene. Ene remembered Madame Florence's words. 50,000 euros. An unimaginable debt. And the work was something she never dreamed she would have to do. She felt sick to her stomach, grief and terror mixing inside her. That night, curled up on a mattress on the floor between Favor and Aisha, Ene stared at the dark ceiling. Silent tears slid from her eyes, soaking the thin pillow. In a tiny voice, she prayed the only words that came to her lips. "Please, God, help me." In the next room, behind a closed door, Yo sat on a stool with Ene's duffel bag at his feet. He could hear Ene's muffled sobbing through the wall. With a heavy sigh, he pulled out her phone and switched it off. As he searched through her belongings under Madame Florence's watchful eye, he felt a tinge of guilt for the role he played, but he pushed it down. He told himself he was just following orders, just doing a job. Yet, even as he tried to harden his heart, he couldn't escape the echo of Ene's heartbroken cries in the dark. The next days blurred into a waking nightmare for Ene. True to her word, Madame Florence wasted no time. On Ene's very first night on duty, she was forced to dress in skimpy clothing, a tight skirt and a low-cut top, and paraded to a street corner in a seedy part of the city. The neon glow of distant bars and the headlight of passing cars illuminated the darkness. Yo drove the girls there in a van and dropped them off under a bridge, where several other women, mostly African and Eastern European, loitered. Ene's heart hammered in her chest as a cold wind beat into her bare arms and legs. Favor stayed close to her, whispering instructions. When a car stops, try to smile. If they roll down the window, ask, "Are you looking for a girl?" Favor's French was basic, but enough to get by. Ene barely managed to nod. Her throat was dry and her palms were sweaty. She felt detached from her body, as if watching someone else live in horror. Not long after, a small blue car pulled up to the curb. A middle-aged white man with a bowed head gestured towards Ene and spoke in French. She froze, not understanding his words, but Favor nudged her forward. Go. Favor urged under her breath. On unsteady legs, Ene approached the car. The man eyed her hungrily, said something she guessed was a prize, and opened the passenger door. Her mind screamed not to get in, but she thought of the scars on her back and the oath, of Auntie Grace's deceitful smile, of Madame Florence's slap and cold eyes. With a deep shaky breath, she got into the car. The next hour was the most degrading and painful of Ene's life. The man took her to a cheap hotel nearby that rented rooms by the hour. Inside the dim, dirty room that smelled of sweat and cigarettes, he ordered her in crude gestures to undress. Ene stood by the bed, heart pounding so loudly she thought she would faint. When she didn't move fast enough, he grew impatient and yanked her blouse, popping its cheap buttons. Please, no, she whispered in English, tears brimming, but he didn't care. He pushed her onto the bed. Ene shut her eyes and went somewhere far in her mind. She tried to picture her mother's face, her siblings playing in the sun, the sound of church choirs on Sunday morning, anything to block out what was happening. It was over quickly, but it left her bruised, bleeding, and so crushed. When the man was done, he tossed a few euro bills at her and left without a word. She lay there trembling, pulling the tattered remains of her dignity and her clothing around her. A flood of tears came, but she muffled her sobs into the pillow. She felt dirty, broken, and terribly alone. A knock on the door startled her. Time to go. Came a low voice in English. It was Yo, sent by Madame Florence to collect her. With a shaking hand, Ene wiped her eyes and stumbled to the door. Yo's gaze flickered over her disheveled body. Her torn blouse, the bruise forming on her cheek where the man had struck her in his lust. For a brief moment, Yo's face twisted with anger, but not at her. He looked like he wanted to say something but remained silent. He handed her a cheap coat. Wear this, he said quietly. Ene nodded, numb, and wrapped the coat around herself to hide her shame. That night, back at the apartment, Ene cried until she had no tears left. Favor and Aisha tried their best to comfort her, but they were all trapped in the same hell. Each night was a repeat of the last, sometimes 2 or 3 men in one night, different faces, different rooms, but the same pain and humiliation. Some men were cruel, some silent, a few were even gentle in their own way, which somehow hurt Ene because it made her remember what normal life felt like. The only constants were the cash exchanged and the emptiness it left in her heart. During the days, the girls were cooped up in the apartment, catching sleep if they could, or doing chores under Madame Florence's watch. Madame Florence would collect the previous night's earnings each morning, counting the crumpled euro note with a greedy glint in her eye. Out of maybe 200 euro a night Ene might earn for her, the madame gave her barely 5 euro for toiletries or snacks. Feeding money. She called it with a smile. Ene often wasn't even hungry. A heavy sadness sat in her stomach at all times. The only respite was that once a week, Madame Florence allowed a short supervised phone call home, not out of kindness, but to keep families from raising alarm. On one such occasion, about 2 months into her ordeal, Ene was handed her own phone, with the SIM card replaced to a French number. To call Nigeria while Madame Florence listened, her hand shook as she dialed her mother's number. It rang, and then Mama Efe's voice came through, full of eagerness and love. Hello, Ene, is that you? At the sound of her mother's voice, Ene almost broke down. She bit her tongue hard to stop herself from sobbing. Mama, yes, it's me, she managed, trying to keep her voice bright. Madame Florence sat across from her, arms folded, eyes narrowed. making sure she said nothing out of line. "My daughter, how are you? How is work?" her mother asked. "We have been praying for you." In the background, Ene could hear her siblings excitedly chattering, "Big sister, big sister." Ene swallowed the lump in her throat. "I am fine, Mama," she lied, forcing a smile through tears. Work is fine, work is very fine. I'm just busy, that's why I haven't called. I miss you all." "We miss you too, oh," Mama Efe replied. "Your brother and sister, they are here. They want to talk." Madame Florence made a slicing motion across her throat, indicating time was up. Ene's panic spiked. She had so much she wanted to say, but instead she blurted quickly, "Tell them I love them. I have to go now. Bye, Mama. God bless." The call was cut as Madame Florence snatched the phone. "Very sweet," Madame Florence said with a cruel chuckle. "Now, no more calls until I decide." She pocketed the phone again. Ene crumpled into a chair, burying her face in her hands. The ache of hearing her family's voices and not being able to tell them the truth was almost as unbearable as the night on the streets. As the weeks turned into months, a heavy numbness settled over Ene. She learned to obey without a protest, to plaster a fake smile for customers, to disconnect her mind from her body. But inside, she was withering away. She barely recognized herself whenever she caught a glimpse in the mirror. Her once bright eyes were sunken and dull, her cheeks hollow. She also noticed something else. Her health was deteriorating. She was always exhausted and had constant colds. One chilly evening, in the 6th month of her bondage, Ene returned from a long night, shivering not just from the autumn cold, but from fever. Her head throbbed and her throat was sore. By the time Yo brought her and Favor back from the apartment, Ene was swaying on her feet. Upstairs, Madame Florence noticed her glazed eyes and the way she wobbled. "What's wrong with you?" the madam asked with a scowl. "Ma, I feel very sick," Ene whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. She was trembling uncontrollably now, her body aching. Madame Florence clicked her tongue in annoyance. "You better not be getting any kind of disease, oh. If you can't walk, you are useless to me." She waved a dismissive hand. "Go and sleep, take paracetamol. You must be fine by tomorrow night. Understand?" Tears of frustration gathered in Ene's eyes as she nodded meekly and headed to the small bedroom. Favor followed, helping her lie down on the mattress and covering her with the single thin blanket they shared. Ene's teeth chattered. "It's okay," Favor said softly, placing a warm hand on her shoulder. "Try to rest." That night, Ene's fever climbed. She had nightmares. She was running through a dark forest while faceless men chased her. She saw her mother calling out to her from across a river, but Ene was drowning and couldn't answer. She woke up multiple times, sweating and coughing. At one point, she stumbled to the toilet and retched until only bitter bile came out. Her moans must have been loud because the door creaked open and Yo stepped in, carrying a cup of water. The girls normally were not allowed any visitors in their room, especially not men. Or perhaps Madame Florence wasn't around, or Yo had decided to risk it. He knelt beside Ene, helping her sit up enough to sip the water. "Easy," he whispered as she coughed. "Drink." Ene's vision was blurry, but she recognized Yo's kind gesture. It was the first gentle touch she had experienced in months. When the water soothed her raw throat, she managed a hoarse, "Thank you." Yo nodded. He placed a small bottle of medicine in Favor's hand. "It's fever medicine," he murmured. "Give it to her. Madam doesn't need to know." As Yo turned to leave, Ene reached out and caught his hand weakly. "Yo," she croaked. He paused, looking down at her. In the dim light, his face looked troubled, shadows under his eyes as if he hadn't slept well either. Why are you doing this?" Ene managed to ask. We are human beings, why? Yor opened his mouth, but no words came. He gently squeezed her hand. Rest now, okay? He said, avoiding the question. Get better first. Then he slipped out as quietly as he had come. It was a simple act of kindness. A bit of water, medicine, a soft word. But in the bleak world Ene lived in, it was like a ray of sunlight in a cave. That night, she slept a little more peacefully, clutching the thought that maybe, just maybe, there was still some goodness around her. However, not all night brought comfort. One night, just a week after her fever, tragedy struck that shook everyone in the apartment. Aisha, the shy girl who rarely spoke of home, decided to risk everything. Despair had taken hold of her after nearly a year in captivity. That evening, instead of going out to the street, Aisha slipped away down the alley,